Hey friends, tonight we've brought you a story about Victorian women. One that on the outside looks full of glamour and luxury, but the hidden truth behind it might just shock you. So sit back, like and subscribe to the video if you really enjoy it, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Now, dim the lights a little. Maybe turn on a fan so there's a soft background sound. And let's slowly step into tonight's story. Glamour, palaces, sparkling gowns, the glow of chandeliers. But behind this dazzling world, there was a golden cage, limited freedom, hidden struggles, and lonely hearts. The life of Victorian women, where behind the luxury lay secrets of sacrifice and pain. So let the luxury lifestyle of Victorian women, the Victorian era, 1837–1901, is known by the name of Queen Victoria. This period was not only famous for the Industrial Revolution and science, but it also created a new social class and a luxury lifestyle. Women, especially ladies of upper-class and aristocratic families, lived a life that was only a dream for ordinary people. Victorian homes, like a small palace, the homes of wealthy women of the Victorian era, were nothing less than a palace for a common person. These homes were not just a place, but a symbol of their status, culture, and refinement. Architecture and design. The houses were very large, with multiple floors and dozens of rooms. From the outside, they showed a mix of Gothic, Roman, and Renaissance architecture. Large stone walls, carved pillars, high ceilings, and stained glass windows gave the home a royal touch. Entry and halls. When any guest entered the home, first there was a grand entrance. Hall. Here were large marble floors, decorative carpets, and family portraits on the walls. Crystal chandeliers hanging from the ceiling made the entry sparkle. Drawing and sitting rooms. The drawing room was the most important space for a Victorian lady, because here she invited her friends and guests. Furniture was of heavy wood, mahogany and oak on the walls, velvet wallpaper, large mirrors and golden frames. Sofas and chairs were covered with silk and embroidered fabric. Dining rooms. The dining room was also a showcase. A long wooden dining table on which silver cutlery and imported china crockery were placed. At dinner time, with the light of candles and chandeliers, the entire hall sparkled. Bedrooms. In bedrooms, there were four-poster beds, large beds with curtains on all four sides. On the beds, silk and satin sheets. On dressing tables, perfumes, combs, and imported cosmetics were placed. Ballrooms. If the house was of a very rich family, then it also had a private ballroom. Here dance parties and musical nights were organized. Marble floors, large mirrors, and a special gallery for orchestra. Gardens and outdoors. At the back of the house, there were landscaped gardens with fountains and statues, walking paths, benches, and exotic flowers. All this was a part of a Victorian lady's luxury lifestyle. The magic of gatherings and chandeliers. In the nights of the Victorian era, when gatherings were held, their biggest charm was the light of chandeliers. These chandeliers were not of ordinary glass, but made of crystal. Each piece of crystal broke the light and spread it into different colors, creating a dreamy atmosphere throughout the hall. When candles or later gas lamps were lit in the chandeliers, their shine made the ceilings and walls glitter. The women who wore silk and satin gowns in the gathering, in the light of chandeliers, shimmered and sparkled even more. Atmosphere of the gathering. In the ballroom or drawing room, music played, piano, violin, and sometimes a full orchestra. Under the lights, couples danced waltz, and with their every step, the sparkle of crystal played along with their shadows. In silver glasses, wine and in golden plate snacks was served, which shone in the reflection of chandeliers. Social symbol. Having a large and imported chandelier was considered a status symbol. The bigger and more sparkling the chandelier was, the more the prestige of that house increased in society. Even the guests of the gathering, at the very first entry, looked up and got impressed. Clothes and jewelry, a living symbol of culture. In the Victorian era, a lady's dress and jewelry were not just fashion. They were a cultural statement of her family's honor, wealth, and her position in society. Clothes, elegance, and discipline. Every gown was carefully designed, influenced by European fashion houses, especially Paris. For Paris, the signed influence. Different times of the day, there were different outfits, morning gowns, light and simple, with embroidery, afternoon dresses, in slightly bright colors for tea parties, evening gowns, the heaviest, in layers of silk and velvet, which sparkled in the light of chandeliers. Every gown had 3-4 layers, including petticoats and crinolines. Wearing a corset was compulsory, which showed a woman's discipline and elegance, no matter how uncomfortable it was. Jewelry. A sign of wealth. Jewelry was quite symbolic. Pearls, a symbol of innocence and purity. Diamonds and rubies, a representation of wealth and power. Cameo brooches, a cultural trend showing family legacy. Jewelry was mostly heirlooms passed from one generation to another. In a gathering, a lady's necklace and earrings drew people's attention first. Cultural statement. Even the color of clothes gave a cultural message. White or pastel shades, a sign of grace and softness. Daily routine. A day in the life of a Victorian lady. The day of a wealthy lady in the Victorian era was completely different from the day of an ordinary person. Her life ran inside a schedule and the strict rules of etiquette. In every moment there was elegance and formality. Morning, the gentle start. Waking up early was a part of their routine, but they did not have to do any physical work because servants did everything. The maid first came into their room, opened the curtains, lit the fireplace, and prepared fresh water. For breakfast, tea, bread, butter, and seasonal fruits were served on a silver tray. After waking up, she wore her corset and morning gown. For this, help of the maid was needed. Morning time passed in writing the diary, reading letters, or going to church. Afternoon, social duties. By noon, Victorian women were ready for their social life. Tea parties, charity visits, and meeting friends were a part of their routine. Some ladies did embroidery, painting, or playing piano for their hobby. If any guest came home, he was welcomed in the drawing room with the light of chandeliers and crystal tea sets. In the dining room, light lunch was served, soups, roasted meat, breads and wine. Evening, the time of glamour. Evening was the most special time for Victorian women. For this time, they wore the most elegant gowns, with heavy silk, lace and jewelry. Evening events, high society balls, dance, orchestra and grand dinners. High society balls, dance, orchestra, opera or theatre, where ladies showed their fashionable gowns. Dinner parties, where table manners and etiquette were very strict. Evening was a kind of display of wealth and status, where a woman represented the honor of her family with her beauty and elegance. Night, winding down. At night, coming back into the bedroom, the maid helped in removing their heavy gowns. They wore a nightdress and sometimes did late-night reading. Writing diary in front of the fireplace or taking a short walk in the garden under the moon was common. Finally, on the four-poster bed with satin bed sheets, she ended her day. The secret struggles, the story of the golden cage. From the outside, the lifestyle of Victorian women looked like a dream world. Homes like palaces, shimmering gowns, dance in the light of chandeliers. But behind this glitter was a life like a golden cage, beautiful but full of bonds. 1. Limited education and freedom. wealthy with proper education. Their study was mostly limited to etiquette, music, embroidery, and household management. Science, politics, or business were not considered suitable subjects for them, meaning their knowledge and decisions always remained restricted. 2. Marriage pressure. Marriage was considered the final destination of a woman. Most marriages were not for love, but for social and financial alliances. A woman's value was judged by her dowry and family status. If any girl did not marry, society considered her a failure. 3. Health issues. The pain behind beauty. Corsets, which were symbols of their beauty and slim waist, spoiled their health. Breathing problems, fainting spells, and back pain were common. Heavy gowns and jewelry were physically exhausting for them. But they had to tolerate all this because society considered beauty a duty. 4. Social restrictions. For a Victorian woman, even public appearance had strict rules. She could not travel freely anywhere without her husband or male guardian. Outside of their home, their rights were almost non-existent. They could not take big decisions of their life, like property, finance, or profession, on their own. 5. Emotional loneliness. Even with a rich lifestyle, many women felt loneliness. Their life had become a display piece. Behind gowns, jewelry, and parties, a silent isolation was hidden. Many women suffered from depression and anxiety, but in that era, no attention was given to mental health. Meaning, the lifestyle of Victorian women was on one side full of glamour and luxury, and on the other side full of bond and sacrifice. Their struggles did not show outside, but inside it was a silent suffering that made them prisoners even while having a home, like a palace. Travel and leisure. Luxury beyond homes. The luxury of Victorian women was not limited to their homes. When they stepped outside, their travel and leisure activities were also a big display of their class and wealth. 1. Horse-drawn carriages, status on wheels. For rich Victorian ladies, horse-drawn carriages were an essential symbol. The more ornate the carriage, golden designs, leather seats, polished wood, the higher their status appeared in society. When a woman sat in the carriage with her fashionable gowns and wide hats, she looked like a moving advertisement of elegance. 2. Seaside holidays. The new trend. In the Victorian era, seaside resorts became very popular. Women went with their families to Brighton, Bath, and Blackpool. The craze for sea breeze and bathing was considered a health ritual. These holidays provided relaxation on one side, and on the other side, they were an opportunity to show society how cultured they were. 3. Shopping sprees. A cultural ritual. Shopping was not just a necessity, but a social activity. The luxury stores of London and the fashion houses of Paris were paradise for rich women. Buying imported perfumes, gowns, gloves, and hats from there was a trend and a matter of pride. A new Parisian gown or French perfume instantly increased a woman's prestige in society. 4. Exotic travel. Beyond England, some wealthy families spent their leisure time on foreign tours. India, Egypt, and Italy were their favorite destinations. Women brought exotic artifacts, jewelry, and silks from there, which gave an exclusive touch to their home decor and their wardrobe. This travel not only gave them enjoyment, but also made them feel a sense of cultural superiority. 5. Leisure at home, entertainment in luxury. When they did not travel, their leisure at home was still royal in style. Tea parties, poetry readings, and music evenings were organized in gardens. Some women even built billiard rooms and private libraries in their mansions. Evening walks in their manicured gardens were a part of their routine. Meaning, Leisure for Victorian women was not just time pass, but a display of culture, refinement and wealth. Whether it was an outing in a carriage, a seaside holiday, or shopping from Paris, everywhere their lifestyle reflected their class and grandeur. Secret side of luxury, the golden cage. As glamorous as the lifestyle of Victorian women looked, it was equally a golden cage inside. A cage made of gold, but lacking freedom. 1. Sacrifice in the name of beauty. Victorian women always had to appear perfect. Every day, wearing corsets for hours gave their body an ideal shape, but at the same time brought breathing problems, fainting, and back pain. Heavy gowns and layered skirts made them elegant, but walking, sitting, and daily activities became difficult. 2. Limited role in society. Society created a strict image for women. They had to remain only an angel of the house. Education and career opportunities were almost closed for them. Whatever decisions were made, property, money, or travel, all were taken by their husbands or fathers. 3. Marriage as a duty, not choice. Marriage was considered the final aim of women. Weddings often happened not for love, but for family prestige and financial alliances. If a woman remained unmarried, society started looking at her with the label of failure. 4. Emotional struggles. Behind the glamorous life, women often felt loneliness and depression. Even in the sparkle of parties and music, they felt an emptiness. But mental health was then considered a weakness, so they lived suppressing their emotions. 5. The golden cage metaphor. On one side, they had palace-like homes, expensive gowns, and sparkling jewelry. On the other side, lacked freedom, individuality, and the right to live life on their own terms. They had become an exhibit, a beautiful decoration for society, but their identity as an independent human being had weakened. That's why the luxury lifestyle of Victorian women was not just a dream, but a paradox, where behind the glamour lay a silent struggle. They truly lived in a golden cage. Conclusion: the sacrifice behind the glamour. The lifestyle of Victorian women looked like a perfect fairy tale. Palace-like homes, the glow of chandeliers, imported gowns, and sparkling jewelry. Every day had a royal charm that was only a dream for ordinary people. But when we look inside their lives, a different truth comes forward. Behind their smiles was the pressure of society's rules. Beneath their glamorous gowns was the pain of corsets. Behind the noise of their gatherings was the silence of loneliness, and even inside their palace-like homes there was a cage made of gold, but still a cage. The life of Victorian women was a paradox. On one side, the world admired them for their elegance, and on the other side, ignored their real struggles. That's why the pages of history remind us that glamour is not always a sign of happiness. Sometimes behind the sparkle, there is a sacrifice and a silence that the world does not see.